Добрый день, дорогие друзья! В эфире программа «Права, обязанности». Ведущая программы Светлана Павленко. Вы находитесь в студии Slavic Family. Сегодня у нас особые гости, которые посетили нас с Christian Chamber of Commerce. В данный момент у нас в студии есть Джаймс, который является Executive Director Christian Chamber of Commerce, а также Владимир Мелтзер, представитель компании Grace Insurance, который является Ambassador Christian Chamber of Commerce и также является особым членом Christian Chamber of Commerce. Не так ли, Владимир?
Yes, member of the year 2012.
Да. Спасибо вам большое, что вы сегодня с нами в студии. And our interview will be, of course, in English. The reason is because we need to bring as much as possible of information to our audience.
And I have not learned Russian yet.
That's right. It's a time still, right? First of all, I want to thank you so much for coming over and spend some time with us and let us know all about your Chamber of Commerce, and also for you, Vladimir, you're here, and we really appreciate. So, of course, I would like to start with you because you are Executive Director of Chamber of Commerce. That means that you're the one who makes a lot of decisions, who probably coordinate a lot of events and responsible for a lot of different things.
Yeah.
I would like to know how long the Christian Chamber of Commerce exists.
Okay, certainly. Well, let me give you a little bit of background. The Christian Chamber of Commerce here in the Northwest is about 5 years old, but the International Christian Chamber of Commerce started out of Sweden, Örebro, Sweden, with a gentleman by the name of Gunnar Olsson back in 1986. And I met Gunnar in 1993 at one of his conferences in Nashville, Tennessee, and almost moved to Sweden. I was single at the time and looking for a bride, and I love Swedish blondes. But
Who don't, right?
Exactly. So I'd actually been in Sweden back in 1982, and I was traveling with Continental Singers, and we went to Germany and Holland and all over the States, and it was a lot of fun. But God said no. I had to stay here in the States and met my wife eventually in Modesto, California.
I hope she's blonde?
She is blonde and blue eyes, yes, but she's German background, grew up in Vancouver, Washington, and just a fun, great lady. She was Director of Sales and Marketing for the Hilton until about 4 years ago. But anyway, the International Christian Chamber of Commerce was put on Gunnar's heart. He was working with a bunch of Christian business people. God showed him the logo and everything and basically said, I want you to launch this. And today it's in 108 nations around the world. And they just had their yearly conference in Jerusalem in the beginning of March, and I almost went. But I had a lot of fun working with Gunnar after meeting him in 93, and then I did a couple projects in 1995. And then I moved here in 96 to Portland area to work and manage a Christian radio station for Crawford Broadcasting, 1330 AM. And so I'm just connecting with pastors and a couple of business people, and all along I'm praying, God, how do we bring the International Christian Chamber of Commerce to America? Because I saw the business training that they had was just absolutely fabulous. Because I have a degree in marketing from Belmont University from Nashville, Tennessee. It's a Baptist college, great degree. Even the 2008 presidential debates was held at our college. It's an amazing school. But I just saw that the International had this incredible training and incredible prayer ministry, and they're making an impact around the entire world. I think in 2006 it was reported by a good friend of mine, Oz Hillman, who has a Marketplace Ministries leadership ministry out of Atlanta, that the International Christian Chamber of Commerce had been asked by the nation of China to do all of their business training in all of their colleges and universities. And the reason for that is that they would bring an understanding of business with character and with integrity and professionalism. And so that's the kind of caliber that the International Christian Chamber has. They work with presidents and kings. And every time I would pray about it, them doing more than just a conference here in America and just more than just having an office in Washington, D.C., God said, wait. And I'm thinking, what am I waiting for? But that's all I heard as I began to pray. And so 6 years ago, a couple who were in their 60s were real estate people in Las Vegas. They were working with a couple of companies, buying and selling houses, had been very involved with the Chamber of Commerce there in Las Vegas. And the economy really dived in 2006 before it hit the world in 2008. And so they had packed up all their stuff and moved to Oregon.
From Vegas
exactly.
to Oregon.
I mean, it was quite a challenge because they basically lost everything. And all they had was what they could bring over. And the lady her daughter had sponsored her to go to a women's retreat, and she didn't know what this was. She wasn't a Christian, and the pastor's wife led her to the Lord. And after she made a commitment to God, she says to her, now that you are a believer, Charlie, you need to ask God what He wants to do with your life. And a couple months later, she's just sleeping. All of a sudden, she wakes up, and she hears in her head, Christian Chamber of Commerce, and thinks, what is this? So she gets on the internet. She finds the International Christian Chamber of Commerce, looks at that. That's interesting. Saw that there's a Christian chamber in Orlando, one in Dallas, one in Nashville, Tennessee, one in Charlotte, North Carolina, New Jersey, and said, I guess I'm supposed to start a Christian Chamber of Commerce here in the Northwest. So she calls up the editor, John Fortmeyer, of the Christian News Northwest newspaper, and says, I'm a new Christian. I'm supposed to start a Christian chamber. And he's just amazed. And so he does a little story on her, and the phone starts ringing. People saying, that's a great idea. You know, we've been praying in the city, in the business community for about 25 years or so. We've had Christ at Work groups that meet together once a week to pray together and talk about business. We have a Portland business luncheon that's been meeting every month for about 25 years, where we share our testimonies in a business context, downtown Portland at Lloyd Center. But we don't do business together. You know, we are not it's not a part of those meetings. Is for us to actually network and do business. And so a friend of mine called me, Arlene McLean, who worked at KPDQ Studios, and she said, hey, we're forming a Christian Chamber of Commerce. And I said, I'm on. So I'd love to come. And so when I got there, Charlie and her husband Ken were there, and their daughter and son-in-law and a couple of other friends of mine were there. And we just kind of prayed, and Charlie's whole perspective was, I'm a new Christian. Wouldn't it be great if we could do business together? And our initial reaction was, we've done business with Christians, and we'd rather not. I've managing a Christian radio station, have had business people and churches who would buy time and not pay me for it, or try to work a deal out after they've signed a contract. And the perspective is it's really challenging, because a lot of Christian business people don't know how to run a good business. They got a great idea, they got a great heart, but they don't know how to run a good business. And they're cheap, and they don't know how to do things with professionalism and excellence. And so our initial thought was, it's a great idea, but maybe not. But then the Lord really challenged us to say, well, are you going to let this situation continue, or are you going to raise the bar? And are you going to challenge Christian business people to learn what the Bible says about business and to do business with integrity and professionalism and such? And so we developed a code of ethics that we're all going to abide by and sign off on, and we started joining the chamber and having meetings and developing that.
And it's already about 5 years, because you just had recently a summit, right?
Yes, correctly. We had an annual event that the chamber was doing. Actually, our grand opening was at the Monarch Hotel in Clackamas, and we had 250 people that came out for the first big event, grand opening.
Just to support
the chamber. This is a great idea. And from that point on, we began selling memberships and so forth. And then about 2009, we had a gentleman by the name of Patrice Saguet who was visiting Portland because of Pastor Eric Bain, who owned a hotel on Sandy right next to 205. They had bought this hotel. It was a drug hotel. They came in, they remodeled it, they helped people, and over the course of the years that they had it, about 3,000 people actually made commitments to Jesus Christ. And Patrice was a gentleman who was teaching biblical entrepreneurship at Regent University in Virginia Beach, as a part of the Christian Broadcasting Network and all that kind of stuff. And as Pastor Eric met Pastor Patrice, he said, you are teaching business training, and you're teaching what we're doing at this hotel. Why don't you come to Portland and check us out? So he brought him out, and Patrice spoke at the Christian Chamber, because Charlie and Ken were going to this church at Eastside Foursquare Church, and they had a Sacred Grounds coffee shop on there on Sandy. And as they began interacting, I talked to Patrice, because he came back and spoke again the second time, and basically said, we would love to partner with you, and you've got a radio show in Washington, D.C. Would you do one on KKPZ? Well, he met with me that next day and said, sign the contract, and we got started, and I began producing a radio show called God's Plan for Business. And it was a lot of fun. He interviewed some folks locally that he had met, And out of that process of development, a friend of mine had called him after the broadcast ended and said, I want to sponsor my son and some other people to go through your biblical entrepreneurship course. And so in the process of doing that, I was invited to be a part of that. And here I am. I grew up in a Christian home, went to a Christian college, have a degree in marketing, and then that year I got such incredible clarity about what the Bible really says about business and sales and marketing and management and what the practices are that gel with those principles and how do you lay out a business plan. And God really convicted me to actually resign from this Christian radio station, this Christian company, and to start my own company called Kingdom Technologies Group. And I've been helping churches and ministries grow, and now I want to help businesses grow. And so when I did that and then traveled to Virginia Beach to actually study to become a certified teacher of biblical entrepreneurship, on the way back, God spoke to me on the plane. I was just praying, and He said, I want you to get more involved in the chamber. And I said, okay, I just resigned. I think I can go to a couple meetings because I was already on the board in several committees. And as I landed in Portland, Charlie and Ken had just resigned as the executive director. And they said, God called us to move and work with a boys' ranch down in Medford, Oregon, and we want you to consider taking over the day-to-day operations. And I said, well, God's already spoke to my heart. He had already talked to someone else, a friend of mine, who God told her that I was going to be running the chamber. And so 3 years ago, in May of 2010, and then later that month in June, I began the process of actually overseeing the chamber. And we have 10 meetings a month that meet from Vancouver down to Eugene. And in those meetings, we bring people together for breakfast or a lunch or a coffee, and we just have people share around the room who they are, what they do. And then we do a short little presentation with a speaker that basically shares the biblical principles or a tool that they can use in business. And then that's basically the meeting. The lunch and learns are a little bit longer format. We have more people, so we don't go around the room. And then out of that, currently we have about 200 members in this whole region. And then we're looking to expand beyond here to a meeting in Gresham, one in Beaverton, go up into Seattle and Tacoma. And the fun thing is that we have cities and people around the country that are now calling us and saying, hey, we want to start a Christian Chamber of Commerce in our area. And in the process of that development over the last 2 years, this International Christian Chamber of Commerce that I talked about is now recognizing what God's doing in the launch of all of these grassroots chambers of commerce. Because they work globally with businesses that work globally, it doesn't make sense for an insurance guy to join the International and pay $500 or $600 a year for that membership because he may not have any need for contacts around the world. But he can join the Christian Chamber for $35 a month. Lunch is included. All the other coffee meetings are included, plus the online marketing, ability to post events and hot deals and all that kind of stuff on our website. And he can get the training that we're talking about and at a discount and be able to grow his business here locally. And then as he develops into a larger company or changes jobs or whatever, then he can connect to the International Christian Chamber of Commerce and actually do business with other business people that are committed to excellence and committed to integrity. And that's really what's happening. We're creating this family of Christian businessmen and women who are honoring each other, wanting to do business with each other, and are wanting to connect, and not just to do business, but we really want to create jobs. We want to transform our society and the community by offering products and services that are good for the community, and to really make an impact and ultimately to see people come to know the God that we love, the God that we serve. And so we're non-denominational, we're not political. Our whole focus is training and teaching and connecting people so that they can get to know each other. And because you do business with people that you know, you like, and you trust. And so as we get to know each other, that trust develops, that like develops, and then basically our whole goal is that businesses would thrive and grow. And that's been the case. Over the last 5 years, we've had many of our members say, because of the economy, the 2008 and all that's happened with that they would not be in business if it hadn't been for the Christian Chamber of Commerce. And so I enjoy it. It's a fun thing. I'm right in the midst of, I found what my calling is and what I'm called to do. And as you can tell, I could talk about it for hours.
No, it's wonderful. It's just like a wow. That's what I can say, because the story by itself, it's amazing.
It is.
How you've been lead and how you opened that organization, and I understood it's a nonprofit.
Yes, it is.
Correct. And how other businesses can be involved, how other pastors or church members, doesn't matter, as long as they would like to learn about the principles. That's the place. Once they become a member, they have access to all of that, to listen variety of speakers.
Exactly.
They can teach you, because you can go, as you said, to many business schools, and sometimes we can get really great knowledge, but our heart is kind of departs from God, because we're not really ready to combine, to integrate. I learned that new word when I was on the summit. Our personal life, our business, our faith together.
Right, and the focus of that is that we've always been taught that we should put God first. And God really started challenging me. He said, why are you putting me first? I don't want to be first. I want to be in the center of everything that you are. I want to be in the center of your family. I want to be in the center of your church. I want to be in the center of your work. I want to be in the center of your relationship with your wife. I want to be in the center, because when I'm in the center, I bring life. You know, when the light is shining, the darkness flees. And if we put God at the first, or we try to balance putting Him at the first and our wife second and our family next and our business next, we're in this circus act where we're trying to perform and try to maintain all of this balance. But God says there's a better way, and that is if you allow me and you follow my leadership. And just like Jesus said, I only do what the Father tells me to do. I only do what I see Him doing. And He says, I'm about my Father's business. See, Jesus was a businessman for 18 years. He talked more about money and more about business, and His parables were business parables than anything else. All of His disciples were businessmen. And fascinating, He rode into Jerusalem on Palm Sunday on a dump truck. It was a donkey. It wasn't a stallion. It was a businessman's tool. And God said to Moses, what's in your hand? It was a shepherd's rod. What's a shepherd's rod? It was a tool for his business. He was a shepherd for 40 years. So God took what he had been doing for 40 years and said, now I'm going to repurpose what you've been doing in the natural to now shepherd my people. And that's what Brett Johnson talked about at our summit this year. We've had a great slew of speakers over the last 5 years that we've been bringing to town. With the last 3 years of the summit are all available. You can go down and listen to the presentations for yourself at marketplacesummit.org and basically listen to the programs, watch the presentations and so forth. But what Brett was talking about is that wherever you are, whatever path that you've been in, God wants to take who you are and who He's put into your life and all the different circumstances, and it's like a tapestry. Have you ever made a tapestry and tried to create something? It's got a big knot here, and it's got a string that goes from here all the way to over here and over here. It looks pretty ugly on the back side, but on the front side, it's this absolutely gorgeous picture of something. And that's what God's doing. He's weaving things around, and us looking at it from our vantage point say, this is really bizarre. Why did I work in the hotel industry, and then why did I travel, and then why did I do this, and then I worked at a radio station, and all, and yet He's been shaping
you, shaping things around it. And it's just all about to work together, not like a solo when it's just me and it's all for me, not like working together and bless others, not just like say, hey, I'm blessing you, but here I'm blessing you and I have a job for you. I have a proposition for you. I have a business with you, and you can go on and bless your family and others.
Exactly. And then the beauty of that tapestry is that you're woven together with other strands. There's other people and other things and experiences. And Joseph said to his brothers, he said, dude, what you meant for evil, selling me into slavery, and I went to prison, what you meant for evil, God has turned and saved our family, and I forgive you. And that's the power of business and ministry and how you can integrate all that together. All these people that bought airtime on the radio station and didn't pay their bill, I forgive them. I have no qualms with that. That's between them and God. And my hope is that they'll do business differently. But at the same time, everything in our lives, if we will work with God in the power of forgiveness and the power of integrity and the power of purity and humility and generosity, we will see a different business environment in our company, in our work. And it's possible. We have people here locally that are living it out. I mean, 2 people, our chairman of the board, Wendy Jones with Agile Business Services, Tom Gillihan with Sterling Communications. Both of those companies are driven by people who love God, who have a personal relationship, who are listening to the Holy Spirit, everyday decision. And the last couple of years, they've been voted as one of the fastest growing companies in Oregon by the Portland Business Journal and by the Portland Business Alliance. They've been recognized as companies, great companies to work for. And so, yes, Dave Medore with U.S. Digital up in Vancouver, another great story. Now he's the county commissioner. He's another kingdom business, is what we call people that are not just Christian business people, but people that are intentionally about using biblical principles in their company, as well as building in wealth and resources to serve the community, intentionally creating jobs and products and services. That's a term, we call them kingdom business people or kingdom businesses, because they're focused in where Jesus said, "Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven." And that just doesn't mean our family or just our churches and ministries. That means the community. And He, through us, is the salt and light of the community. If we don't speak out on issues and voice what He's saying through us, darkness is going to always be dark. But if we've got to shine the light. And so again, pardon my French or my Southern accent. I grew up in South Georgia, but I was taught to love the hell out of people, basically, to just love people and not allow the enemy's lies to rule them, and to allow that love to expose the things that we perceive that aren't real, that are lies of the enemy that keep us bound up. And so that's really the goal, and what you experience when you come to the Christian Chamber of Commerce is that people that really do want to support each other and that love each other. We had a gentleman, Joel Manby, who spoke at the Portland Good Friday Breakfast 2 years ago to 1,000 people at the convention center. And he wrote a book called Love Works. And it's all about how when you bring love into a company, it does bring life. It does bring employees satisfaction and fulfillment. And they find the right job and they make good money and so forth. And if love works, and we know that God is love, God works. Not only does He work in our company, and having Him in our company works, but God works. God's always been working. Jesus said the Father's always been working. He's still working. He created the world and rested on the 7th day, but He's constantly actively working.
Yes, He's not sleeping.
He's not.
Gladly. And I have experienced myself that a pleasure to be at that summit. I have met wonderful people and the speaker, of course, and it shifted my thinking, my prayer, my understanding and concept of that integration. That was like that one word,
Yes.
A truly change. And I talked to Brad. It was a minute and a break, and he said, before I was coming to this summit, he said, I had this word that I heard the word healing. And because when I said to him, I received healing from that word, from one word integration, he said, now I know why I was here. And it's true, because sometimes you will be at business and you will receive a healing, not physical healing, but this different type of healing. And it doesn't matter where you are, what you do, decent things, you're still able to receive a healing from God, and that's what I received there. And I know the Vladimir also been there at Summit, and he's your member.
Yes, he is.
For a while, and he received a nominee. So Vladimir, what
Yes.
kind of nominee you receive? How you become a
Member of the Year.
Member of the Year of Christian Chamber of Commerce? What have you done?
I think I need to go back a little bit and
Sure.
give you a short story that 13 years ago, being a Russian Jew, I brought together the Soviet and American Jews back in Cleveland. And almost 8 years ago, in Lorain County, Ohio, in the best times of my life, I walked into the Assembly of God Church in Avon, called Christian Heritage Assembly of God. Why I walked in there, I had no idea, but I did. And it was, again, in the best times of my life. I started to listen to the to the music, and I started to cry. And then sermon started, and I started to cry again. I didn't understand what happened. Nobody walked it to me. And then next Sunday I came again, same thing happened again. So that process never stopped. And then within the next few weeks, I started to talk to my clients. And I started to realize that all of my clients, probably 90% of them, were full gospel Christians. They never told me about Christ a single word. There is something wrong with the picture. To me, at least. I'm not sure if there is nothing wrong to you, but to me, there is something wrong with this picture. So, and I started to see something else going on in the Christian community, is everybody suffering. So on one side, it says, greater he is in you than he is in the world. But on the other side, it seems to me that the one who is a small one is taking over the territory. So when I started to see that the people are totally disillusioned themselves from what the word says, and everything James just mentioned, so I'm not going to go into this, but what they're doing is they're staying in the church by one feet, and another foot stands in the system of the devil. So I started to talk about the economy of God. And next thing I know, the movement of the marketplace ministers in Northeast Ohio is nothing compared to what's going on in here. But somehow, because of my desire, I got engaged in this. And I started to talk to someone in Columbus. I was in Cleveland, he was in Columbus, through the email, introduced by my first Bible teacher. And by the way, that Bible teacher, I'm a full gospel man, and that Bible teacher is a Baptist. So I started to cross denomination from the get-go. And what I'm hearing right now, some people in the Soviet Christianity talking about the full gospel Christians, very bad stuff, I would like to tell you right now to stop it. To stop it where you're at. Because the God did not mean to create denominations. So next thing what happened, I'm talking to this gentleman who is a full gospel businessman in Columbus, and God moved me from Northeast Ohio to this territory almost 3 years ago. By the way, James joined the Christian, became the executive director the same month when I came here. And then next thing I know, he's inviting me to the seminar led by Ford Taylor, who actually is a main teacher today. James will correct me if I'm wrong, to one of the Assembly of God churches, most active Assembly of God churches in this territory, called Portland Christian Center. Okay, so I'm coming to that, and then I got connected with one of the marketplace pastors in there, and he introduced me. His name is George Ledoux, and he introduced me to James. So right away, I didn't need to think too much about this, because I was trying to do the same thing that's going on in here back in Cleveland, and quite frankly, it did not work out. So here we're sitting right now, and I'm here to tell you that today I know at least one pastor in this territory, and his name is Matt Payne, and he is in Beaverton, and he is a pastor, and he's also a social media consultant. And he's not just a social media consultant to anybody, he's a social media consultant to the city of Beaverton. So if you tell me that we're supposed to separate church from the rest of the things that we're doing, then I have to tell you here, I'm not even sure if I need to prove anything, because the history proved itself that it does not work. If we're going to lock ourselves in the churches, and by the way, church does have a place to be, but we're not going to go anywhere. We have to get out of the box and create what is going on here in Portland, not only through the Christian Chamber of Commerce, but also through some other organizations that Christian Chamber of Commerce is collaborating with, such as Palau Association. That's created school-church partnership. And there is a documentary movie that's been created in support of that mission that's going on through that particular association. And following up on that, James brought me to the meeting, at Palau Association, where I was only one time, where I see people from all over the region got together, telling each other what kind of differences they make in where they at. Which means, for example, if the Voice of Hope is on Holgate and 101 roughly, right?
104.
104. So that's your neighborhood. So if that's your neighborhood, I know you have very powerful business people in there. You are a very powerful businesswoman there. You can make a transformation right where you're at. And by the way, in this particular case, I wanted to use the terminology that I've learned back in the Soviet Union. Dale Carnegie said that, make a lemonade from the lemons. So let's start making a lemonade from the lemons. Let's get the hostility that exists between denomination in the Soviet Christianity completely disappear. By the way, in American Christianity, to the best of my knowledge, it does not exist. I want you to know that, and I said that on my show on Russian Radio 7, the hostility in American Christianity, I'm saying this to you as a first witness, does not exist. Am I correct, James?
Yeah, it's amazing.
It does not exist.
It's amazing what's
okay?
happening.
It is time to take out these denominational barriers that are taking place in the Soviet Christianity in the United States of America. And by the way, there is a reason why God brought so many, what I call Soviet, because we came from the former Soviet Union. So don't get offensive when I say that. Mm-hmm. So Soviet Christians came here for a specific reason into this region. And I believe that we're here to make a difference for people that are living here. And I don't need to tell you what kind of problems we have in this region with a lot of different things. So I think I'm talking too much, so let me shut up for a minute.
Thank you, Vladimir, for sharing your thoughts. And I want to go back to the Christian Chamber of Commerce. We are running out of the time. We're going to wrap it up.
Okay.
And for what I understood, in order to have the benefits from the Christian Chamber of Commerce, a person becomes a member,
yes,
and that allows any member to attend a variety of meetings that are held in different places. Also, they have access to be in a variety of teachings, if
Correct.
they can choose whatever fits their schedule.
Correct.
And briefly, if you can describe what type of the teaching you offer, or say, like not you personally, but your
Sure.
speakers, your professionals, they're offering a biblical principles teaching.
Right, exactly. Well, we have several partners that we work with. One is Nehemiah Project International Ministries. Patrice Segay, that I mentioned earlier, moved his ministry from Washington, D.C. to Portland a couple years ago, and he teaches and developed a course called Biblical Entrepreneurship. And it's in 3 modules. 1 is the principles, 2 is the practices, and 3 is the planning aspects of that. So you can take that through the Christian Chamber at a discount, as well as we have another partnership with Ford Taylor where we met Vladimir, and that is called Transformational Leadership. Now, BE teaches you those principles and practices and planning, but TL, Transformational Leadership, actually gives you the tools to actually enact those things. Because when you try to apply these principles and these practices according to the plan, every business is made up of people, and people have problems. And so TL gives you the tools to create a community of trust, to create a community of honor, to how to bring about conflict resolution and to work through issues and make sure everybody's in the right place. And when once you get to a certain level of community and trust in that business, then you can enact. And what happens is the roof comes off. God starts blessing your business like crazy. The money starts pouring in, and then you have the ability and the capacity to shepherd and to steward that kind of wealth where you don't spend it on yourself, but you share it. You invest in other things in the community and help that. So that's what TL's about. We've got a training coming up in October with Ford. We've got some BE classes coming up in June and July with Patrice, as well as I teach that as well. And then there's some other partnerships that we're developing. We're bringing Brett back up with Repurposing Business and the Institute that he works with to work with larger companies to do a 1 or 2 week intensive with them. And so there's going to be always a place where you can go to the Chamber's website, christianchambernorthwest.com, click on the calendar of events, and you can see the things that are our monthly meetings as well as our special trainings that are coming up. And then all of our business partners and so forth, they have their events. It's just, again, our role in the community is to be a hub of activity and information. And if you can't find it there, email us or call us and let us know. But there's a lot of teaching partners that God's bringing to the table to help us grow, and I'm excited about that partnership.
That's wonderful, and I want to thank you so much again for being with us, and I hope that's not our last interview.
No, not at all.
We're looking forward to get some more information and learn more about the Christian Chamber of Commerce, why we need it, how we can get that concept in our community, how is important to us to be involved as well. And also thank you, Vladimir, to be here with us today. And till next time. All right. Wonderful. Thank you so much. Всего доброго, дорогие друзья. До новых встреч в эфире.